Assalamu alaikum, my name is Hannah and this is Pepper and Pine. Welcome to day 1 of the Qur'an Journaling series for Surah Kahf. If you're new, welcome, and if you're interested in the materials that we've used, they are all listed in the description box below, as well as on the blog post that accompanies this video. So we're going to be working on Surah Kahf today, and I'm using a couple of additional resources as well as some online videos. I have my Tafsir for Surah Kahf by Ibn Kathir. I also have my word for word Qur'an, and I'm going to be using these two resources mainly for today. I also have my Qur'an notebook, and I'm going to use this to jot down the information that I want to include in my Qur'an journal. I like this Qur'an notebook because it has the Qur'an on one side and the translation on the opposing page, as well as an area for you to write your notes. So I'm going to begin by referring to the Tafsir. I also was referring to some online videos that are going to help me bring some of these concepts together. Now, there's a lot to this surah, and I'm going to begin by writing a couple of the hadith that are mentioned about this surah. And so whoever reads Surah Kahf on Friday will be illuminated with light from one Friday to the next. So I decided to add a little bit of a sun motif there in the corner. I am going to be using a lot of illustrations. These are my own illustrations, my own ideas. The illustrations themselves do not represent the tafsir. They represent icons for me to help my memory, to help me remember aspects of the surah and the tafsir. So you may use whatever icons or motifs you would like, but the tafsir itself is gathered by resources both online and in books. I've pulled out my notebook, which is just drawing paper that I had bound into a notebook. These pages measure about 8.5 by 11. I'm going to begin by writing the first ayah in Arabic. I'm going to be writing the word-for-word translation. Now, because this is my first day doing this, I wasn't quite sure of the format. And to be honest, looking at a blank page is kind of overwhelming. But I'm going to just start by writing the Arabic. And I really wanted to have a more beautiful script, but I went ahead and just did the best handwriting I could. And then I added the word-for-word translation. Now, there's one word that I'm going to change here. In the book, it says servant, but all the tafsir that I've read and seen uses the word slave for the word abd. So I went ahead and wrote slave instead, and that's like a big theme for this first ayah. I realized that once I had done everything in pencil, I wanted to go back and add some ink, so I wrote over it with my fountain pen. I think in the future I'd rather do black versus blue because I like the use of black to kind of highlight some of, or low light some of the illustrations that I've done. But there's more that I did not like about this first page, and you'll be able to see a little bit later on in the series. So I'm going to draw my first motif, which is just a book, and it's my illustration of the idea of the Qur'an being sent down, and also the idea that in it is perfection. There is nothing wrong in the Qur'an. There is no doubt. It is not crooked. It is straight. It is pure. It is correct. And I like this ayah for explaining this in a very comforting way, both in that there is no crookedness and also it is straight. And so I like the balance of having both, so there's never any doubt. There isn't any doubt that this is the correct message and that everything enclosed in the Qur'an is correct. So I wanted to illustrate also this idea of a straight path and it being not crooked. And I decided to enclose the two words in a bit of a sign, as if it's signage. And then I'm going to just draw a path so that you can sort of envision the idea of a straight path, that there is no crookedness on this path, that we want to stay on the straight path, and that in this Qur'an there is nothing that is crooked from the truth, that it is all truth. And so I'm sort of just kind of making both of those words. I didn't want just crookedness without and not. And the way the Arabic language works, the format, the grammar is a little bit different than English. And so I wanted to enclose both of those so that there wasn't any confusion that this is what I'm trying to say and to illustrate. So since I went over everything with pen, I was able to draw over it with the color pencil and keep everything from smearing. So that was one positive thing about outlining everything with my pen. I'm just going to go in and continue to fill in the rest of the background so that it looks like sky. And then I wanted a few more details for this, and I added a little bit of green around the sign, and I'll add some more foliage and a tree. So I do want to read for you that the translation for this first ayah is first we begin with Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, and that is in the name of God, the most compassionate, the most merciful. And if you really wanted to dive into just that beginning, the opening of each surah is actually very deep. So there's so much that you can dive into when we're understanding just the words compassionate and merciful. So the first ayah is, all praise be to God who has sent down upon his servant, and I would just going to say slave because that's all the Tafsir has said, sent down upon his slave Muhammad the book and has not made therein any deviance. So in the English translation, you're going to find different translations, just the way that people have translated, you'll find different words, but the Arabic will always be the same. And so the word for word Qur'an had no crookedness from truth, rather than the other Qur'an translation says no deviance. The bottom portion of this page will be reserved for the 4 themes of Surah Kahf, but that is for day 2 of this series. So I hope that you will join me again tomorrow for another episode of my Qur'an Journaling series. For links to all of the materials that I'm using, you can check out the blog post that accompanies this video. That link is down in the description box below. And if you'd like to see how we are doing our Qur'an journaling on a daily basis, you can find me on Instagram at Pepper and Pine.